Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live, a surprise episode. I corralled my buddy Dustin Boatman to talk about Gumbo, our Gumbo night last night. Say hello, Dustin.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah, so last night we had Gumbo Live. Last night we had our Gumbo game night. We played a couple of games. Anytime you want to hit us, we'd love to hear some comments out on the feed on facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, or hit us on Twitter at BoardGameGumbo, or you can always send us an email at BoardGameGumbo@gmail.com. Dustin, you're also on Twitter. What's your handle on Twitter?
Dustin F. Boatman. Just one word.
And Boatman is actually a name, right?
Boatman. Boatman. I don't know
the actual name. That's what I like to hear, man. Yeah. So last night we did our Gumbo game night on Wednesday nights, and it feels like we've talked about this before, but you don't always get to make Gumbo game nights on Wednesdays.
No, I don't. But this summer, my wife cut me loose a little bit, let me come out on Wednesdays. So it's always good to get some extra gaming in. So.
Yeah, and we have gotten a lot of games in, although you and I have only played a couple of games this summer.
And one of the games I wanted in the same room. We just don't game together.
Our backs are right near each other. Although we have played a couple of games this summer. We should make sure we say that.
Candyland the other night.
We did not play Candyland.
Oh no. Okay. That's someone brought it the other night. They told me.
Yeah, somebody brought it. That was a good story. Tell that story about Dave, John, and me at Gumbo game night. What happened?
He just told me he brought it. That's all. He said he brought it and tried to get you to play it, but you refused.
Yeah, he went out to the car and he came back. He said, "I got the latest hotness from Gen Con, man. You got to play this." And it's a freaking Candyland game.
Well, he knows if he says hotness, Barry's gonna jump on it, right?
I'm gonna jump on it, man. You know that. I'm like I'm always the king of the hotness. That is a topic that you and I need to talk about at one time, how you and I want to do more than just play the latest hotness games. You and I like actually playing the same games over and over. I've played Downforce 4 times now. I played Dragon Island twice, and you played The Godfather how many times?
5 times. That was my 5th last night. So
yeah, so we get johned all the time at Gumbo Game Night about the latest hotness, and yet we play multiple games more than anybody else.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Let's see what Carlos has to say about that when he checks in. So speaking of Godfather, you got a game in The Godfather while you were in Texas. You kept talking about it on Twitter. You kept talking about it on Facebook. And then we finally got to see the game last night. I was impressed with the gameplay. Can I start out with a negative? Which probably shocks you. I was not that impressed with the board itself.
I mean, I like it. It's functional. It's nothing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else they would do. It's just a city. I mean, New York City. I don't know what else they're going to do. I mean, the spots make a lot of sense. It's not confusing. But, I mean, I can see what you're saying. It's not, like, sexy or anything. But
it's not. It's muted colors and kind of boring looking, man.
Yeah. You see, I don't know. Maybe it's because I like the gameplay so much, because that's what I was saying earlier, is the little nitpicks like that. I see them once y'all tell me. Because also Bradley brought up the card art all being the same pretty much. On the Godfather jobs, it's just the box art. And I can see that as a negative, I guess, but just the fact that I didn't notice any of that stuff, to me is a testament to how much I enjoy actually playing the game. Is once you tell me, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but look what I have behind me, man. I got that beautiful board, the functional board in stockpile, maybe not beautiful. The awesome Nolan Nasser art there in New Bedford that I love to play. Even Imperial Settlers has some of the coolest art of any cards. Most people just kind of skip over it, but when you look at the cards and you see what those little people are doing, it's actually pretty funny. I mean, they've injected some humor into that little game. The Godfather, it just looked a little drab. But I will tell you what I did like.
Yeah.
I did like the suitcases, man. That was a pretty cool thing. Talk to me about the suitcases.
Well, they do look cool, but I think the mechanic of the suitcase is one of the most interesting parts of the game because – you get all these point cards during the game, like money cards for doing jobs with the Godfather, or you can think of if you play Blood Rage like quests, you turn in this resource and you get to take an action and take this much money. Well, that's all fine and dandy. You have money in your hand, but it doesn't become points until you can launder it into your suitcase. And you have to take a separate action on the board to do that, or a special action card called an ally card where you might be able to do it. So I really like the way the suitcase works. You lock money into your suitcase, which becomes points at the end of the game. But the cool catch is you have to show everyone what card you're putting in your suitcase so everyone can kind of see like how much money you're putting in, because they can also play jobs that lets them steal money from your suitcase. So if you have, let's say, a $1 card and a 5, well, obviously you're going to think, new to the game, you're going to go, I got to put all the big money cards in my suitcase because that's points.
Right.
But then someone across the table who wants to be a jerk is going to see that and play a card on you and steal 3 5s from you. So you, from multiple plays,
you got to put some singles in there, right?
And that's the first thing I told him when I sat down and explained the game. I'm like, look, you got to put some dollar bills in there because I will rob you quickly if I get a chance. And
Dave wanted to remind you that it's also a very useful, box for if you want to break cards when you're putting them in there. What the heck is he talking about? He's been crowing about that all day.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
I don't know if he thought I was trying to peek into his suitcase, but he would take like a card and he would he'd do it super fast, like, and then I didn't even notice it. I'm sitting there and then Brian looks over me and is like, hey, Dave, you might want to, not bend the hell out of the cards when you shut the top, because apparently he had hit a card and bent a corner on it. So that, and then my sleeves are coming in 2 days. So that's a big joke about I shouldn't have brought it without sleeves, blah, blah, blah. But it's all right. I forgive him,
Yeah. Hey, so we were talking off the air before about what I liked about the suitcase, seeing it in person. I heard a lot about it, and I'd seen it on TV, but, it's not the same whenever you're looking at it. But, the story that Eric Lang had told about walking through the airport, he had the travel mouth, and he's trying to think of a mechanic to store the money in, and then he sees this Altoids can, buys Altoids can and goes, Eureka, I've got my mechanic. But when I saw it, I was expecting it to look just like an Altoids
like a little
can.
tiny tin?
Yeah, but it's not. It's a big freaking suitcase-looking thing, man.
Yeah, it was bigger than I thought too, and I guess it's kind of novelty. You could have done it in other ways, but I think it's thematic, man. I think, there's some talk about the game not being necessarily the Godfather theme very well, like from the movie, and I can kind of see that. But
yeah, let's talk.
Straight up Mafia theme.
Yeah, we talked about the components. Let's talk about the theme. How well does Eric Lang translate the Godfather movies into a board game?
I don't know about
on a
the
scale of 1 to
itself.
10 Dustins.
I mean, I don't know. I really, honestly, it's been years since I saw the movies, but from looking at the board, really, your round tracker is the Don himself, okay, and he walked, and each time you go down the different rounds, it's like one of the movies and all that. Okay. That's there, and there's a few flavor texts on the names of jobs and cards maybe, but overall it's really just a Mafia theme, which I'm fine with, and I actually think the game is perfectly themed for the mechanics. Maybe not necessarily the Godfather, I mean, it's more like art, and some people might have an issue with that, but I don't. I'm kind of interested in Mafia theme anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to carry a Mafia theme. You guys were pretty loud during the game last night. I mean, there was a lot of backstabbing. There was a lot. Hey, are we getting we're going to do alliance. Hey, we got to take this guy out. And then I walk by to take pictures every once in a while. And by the way, I left my phone out in the rain, and so all those pictures are gone. I had to get a new phone. But I'm walking by trying to take pictures, and all I see are dead Mafia dudes in the river. I mean, just floating like fish.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. There must have been like 15 in the Hudson, man.
Yeah,
there was some killing going on.
Yeah, Bradley had a couple of well-timed car bombs that took out 6 people in one time. That's what I kind of wanted to play with our group. I will say it's probably a group type game where if your group isn't into that much confrontation, I mean, we're confrontational just for fun. We go at each other all the time. So I knew it'd be a perfect kind of game for the kind of games we play. But I can definitely see some people maybe not liking it, how mean it can be. Although that being said, you can play it like a Euro and just manage resources like a worker placement game, and that'll work unless somebody blows you up. But things happen.
Yeah, so one of our guys did quickly recognize that it's got the diplomacy, breaking alliances, blah blah blah, killing people, sleeping with the fishes. But he recognized that at its heart, it's really not just a dudes on a map game. It's a Euro game, right?
I wouldn't even say it's a dudes on a map game, and that's everyone knows that's my favorite genre of game. And I was interested in this because my favorite Euro mechanic, is worker placement. So when I saw worker placement, Eric Lang, and area control, I was like, okay, I'm sold already. And then when I saw videos, I mean, it's got the area control mechanic in it, I guess, and you are placing people on the board, but it's more like worker placement spots, like your typical worker placement where if I take a spot, you can't have it. You just have 2 different kind of workers, of one more powerful family member that can basically take multiple actions when you place them out, and you have your thug, which can just take a single action. And honestly, of all the worker placement games we've played, I'm not gonna say it's the best at the theme for worker placement, but it's pretty good because it actually, I mean, the way it's explained, the worker placement mechanic is you're actually going to these businesses and shaking the people down and like taking your cut from them for them being in the turf and everything. And I thought like every mechanic in the game, I think really fits the theme of the game.
So it's not like Blood Rage at all, then, where it's really important to control these different territories.
Well, it is important to control territories, but not necessarily for the same reasons as Blood Rage. Blood Rage, you know, it's a lot of quests you have to, you know, Blood Rage is more of a dudes on the map where you're going to get worker placement and you're going to, I mean, you're going to get your area control and you're going to fight for it and try to hold it to score or get quests.
Absolutely.
This game, it's got a really cool mechanic where when you have area control, and it'll actually seem not that powerful until you see it in action. When you control an area, you don't necessarily get any points to the end of the game, and it's just a 5-point bonus. It's not a huge thing. But if you control a turf and someone takes a worker placement spot in that turf with their weak worker, a thug, they get to take the action as you do. Like when you collect resources, they're collecting resources. So Bradley was able to get like a handful of resources because he controlled enough areas where every time we take an action, someone would get resources. So I really liked the way he used it. What's up, Dave?
What? We got a Dugan in here?
Yeah, dude.
There's a Dave.
Hey, we're talking about your favorite game, man, Godfather.
Oh yeah, they got right. I enjoy that game,
Gumbo here, back with another Gumbo live. This time I've got a couple of special guests here. Some of the crew to Gumbo. I got Dustin, and I got Dave Dugat coming in. Dave, what's your Twitter handle?
Davey DTD at Davey DTD. DAVY.
Now, you know, I never read it right. Now I understand what it is. Davey TD. That makes sense. So, yeah, we're talking. You can always reach us at Twitter, at one of their handles, or at Board Game Gumbo on Facebook at facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, or on Gmail, BoardGameGumbo@gmail.com. We're talking Godfather tonight. I did not get to play it, Dave, but you and Dustin got to play it. Dustin's been crowing about how well the game went over last night, and you guys were really loud. We talked about the components already, but right now we're talking about the theme. How well do you think The Godfather carried the theme of the movies? Did Eric Lang pull it off?
I believe that that he pulled the gangster theme very well in the movie, in the game. You actually feel like you're controlling a game. You know, you have to control territories, and with the special abilities of blowing up people with a car bomb, you know, wiping out territories and trying to control them. I enjoyed it a lot. But as far as the movie goes, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. It doesn't even bother me.
Yeah, I didn't care much either. I think Brian was just trying to start trouble, but
like we always do.
Right, that's what we're known for. But as far as a game, like a gangster game, dude, it was amazing. And I noticed that Eric Lang in all his games, like he does a certain mechanic where, and this is almost in every game, that the last piece you place on the board ends your turn.
Or action points, same deal.
Or action. It's kind of the same, you know.
Yep.
It's,
same deal.
It's pretty much the same thing in every one of his games, you know.
I like.
So is that like the Blood Rage
mechanic? A lot of tension.
Is that like the Blood Rage mechanic whenever you run out of what is it called in Blood Rage? Glory?
In Blood Rage.
Yeah.
Rage.
Glory's your points in Blood Rage.
Yeah, no, what's the energy thing?
Rage.
Is it's got a similar mechanic there with the Rage?
Except it's your worker. When you place your last worker, you can do nothing else. No other actions.
Right.
Because there's other actions you can do besides placing workers. You can complete jobs. You can play ally cards.
And it was cool, man. It was kind of like a set collection in your hand. And it kind of gave me like a pokerish kind of feel where I'm collecting these cards, right, which are like drugs, guns, alcohol.
You know,
and like
stuff really decent Americans use all the time.
I mean, you know, the gangster movie staples, right? But
well, what was that comment that Dustin had last night that just cracked me up? We're playing our little game on the side here, our little tiny epic quest, and then I hear something like, Yeah, does anybody have any narcotics, man? I mean, I can't find any narcotics right now. It sounded like every Saturday night at the Circle K whenever I'm walking around, you know.
That's how we do
I
it in the
believe
Barry.
at one point in the game, I'm like, dude, I need narcotics. I want drugs now. Give me drugs.
Yeah, narcotics, if I remember right from the videos, that's kind of like the wild card.
That's the wild card. That's like the best resource because it's wild. You can use it. It's booze, guns, blood money, and narcotics.
Right. And the problem in the game was when we were playing with Bradley, he controlled that area where like everyone, the most important resources were areas that he controlled. So he got them for free whenever you landed on those spots. When we did a shakedown in the front of the building, he controlled those areas. So he got the action for free or the card for free. Basically sitting there just collecting resources and able to use them. Like, you know, every time I looked at him, he had a stack of cards, about, I don't know, 15 to 20 of them.
Yeah,
and just ready, collecting jobs and ready to unload them. That's one part I liked about the game. You know, it gave me like a little pokerish kind of feel to it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can see that.
Cool.
It's just a lot of mechanics going on. Like I said, there's more mechanics to the game than I thought. You know, everyone just talked about the worker placement, the air control, and I didn't even think about the set collecting, and you know, you even got bidding. There's a lot, and like you said, there's no actual negotiation rules. It's not like you're playing nothing personal or something. You can't like, you know, there's no kind of allies really or money, but you do a lot of talking. You do a lot of threatening because you're like, dude, I'm telling you, if someone grabs a gun, you'll say like, man, if you shoot me, dude, I'm telling you, I'm gonna spend the rest of the game coming at you, like me and Brian did. You know, don't car bomb me, whatever, please, man, don't car bomb me.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it has a cool element to it.
you know, I didn't get to watch all the game. I just kept walking over to see it. I haven't played. I think I played Diplomacy a long time ago, back when back in college, if I remember right, or we played maybe a homebrew version of it. And I kept hearing that he said, "Oh, this is a spiritual successor to Diplomacy. It's Blood Rage with area control, but adding diplomacy. Because in Blood Rage, there's no real alliances. You just go after everybody." I heard a lot of, making alliances, breaking alliances, backstabbing, trying to help other people all through the game. It seems like he pulled it off on that aspect.
Yeah, you can do that. I don't know about help. I mean, I guess you can help people by not doing stuff to them or stuff like that. But I mean, you can't like actually help them. You can't give them resources or trade or any of that. But like I said, it does open for a lot of people like threatening and dude, you know what I mean? I mean, me and Dave go at it all the time anyway. But like me and Brian were going at it. Like, dude, why'd you kill me? Oh, that's it. Well, it looks like you're going to get killed next turn. You know what I mean? It's just, and that's the kind of game I like. It just gets people hanging out. That's why I got back into board games, because unlike video games, you're in a room with people, you're cutting up and laughing and,
And there was a lot of that last night. So, Dave, how do you think that Bradley pulled it off? Isn't the theme of the game Mafia, where you're supposed to be car bombing people and taking them out and running all these operations? How did he do that without being so aggressive like you guys were?
Oh, he was definitely aggressive more towards the end of the game.
But it was already won by this time, though.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that was my fault at one point where I let him slip by. I should have taken the area that he wanted, but I let him have it because I should know better. But that was my fault. Yeah, there's just like once you lose an area, it's hard to get it back. It really is. Once you lose a certain area on the board, it's really hard to get it back, especially if it's an area that everyone wants. And Bradley already has in this, okay, if everyone goes for the area, I'm car bombing and then wiping everyone out, and I just get control because I have one piece.
There's definitely one area on the board that I even told y'all, like, I'll just let y'all know, if y'all take this area, you will be murdered. And it happens every time.
Did you really say that?
Oh, yeah, because everyone always murders. There's one spot on the board for your family member that is arguably probably the best spot in the game because it gives you like 5 or 6 bonuses, and it gives you area control points in 3 different locations. So it's a juicy spot, but it's cool because the way he balanced it out is, even though it's, I guess, technically OP for a spot, it's such a hot spot that if you go there early, you will get killed. And everyone who went there got killed because someone's going to knock you off.
So one thing I don't understand is that I've heard a lot of reviews say it takes multiple plays for you to see what the cards do, or what, how to play the cards. Or
I have heard that.
It took me half the game to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. I know that the guns are going to kill people. The green ones are going to move people around, and I'll be able to take their spots. I don't see where it takes multiple plays to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know partly of that though is I had played it multiple times, and I remember when I explained the game, there was a couple jobs I took out specifically and explained what they did because like if I didn't warn y'all not to put $1 bills in your suitcase, inevitably somebody's going to stick all fives, and then they're going to complain whenever someone robs them of all their money. Like the one game I played in Texas, a dude didn't listen. Like I told him, you need to put some ones, and we watched him put threes and fives. In one round, he lost 25 points because me and two other players had the job where you rob people, and as soon as someone robbed them and they saw no ones come out, all twos and threes, the next guy robbed him, then the next guy robbed him, and then he wanted to quit. I'm like, dude, I told you to put ones in your suitcase. Are you gonna get robbed? Hey, that's the way we work. Bada bing, bada boom.
That's a cool mechanic where he, because one of the ways that a guy like Bradley does usually win is he's able to put all those fives in a game, getting the maximum resources in there. In this way, you can't. You got to put some of the small ones in there.
You have to.
That's a cool mechanic.
Like a defensive action, like in case I get robbed, because I trust no one, because we're all criminals, I'm putting some ones in the suitcase.
You guys have any other tips? So, I hope to play it at the next game night. What's some other tips for people that are brand new and it's getting broke out at their game night and they want to get up to speed?
Prepare to be angry.
You better not. Yeah.
You can't go into a game like this being butthurt. You can't.
No. If your butthurt level is high, you may want to quit.
Okay. So on the butthurt,
it's a hard one.
It's a tough one.
What did you play, BJ?
I played Tiny Epic Quest from Scott Alms, which is in my top 2 all-time of Scott Alms games since I've only played 2 of them. But
so is it 1 or 2? Because that says a big deal if you've only played 2 of them.
It's definitely number 1. I liked Tiny Epic Western, which I played twice. I like it, but I like Tiny Epic Quest better. The first play was fun at Gen Con. I got to play it with Carlos, our Iowa friend, and a couple other people. But I tell you, I like this one better. I mean, I really like I like Tiny Epic Quest. It's Zelda in a board game form, but it's almost like a big giant worker placement game. You have 4 or 5 spots on the board that only one person can get the benefit of if you go there, and they usually ratchet up whatever else you're doing. So people that recognize that can use their first meeple, their first little item meeple, to go out on that spot, grab it, and then do something else. Because you have 4 actions during the turn, and you have 3 meeples. So one of them is going to be able to do a couple of things during the turn. So that was one of the things I really liked about it. The graphics are really cool. The little item meeples, it sounded so stupid whenever I saw it on Kickstarter. But when your little meeple dude is walking around with a big giant sword and a shield, I don't know. There's something.
Cool. I thought it looked cool too.
It's something visceral about it.
Is that
really
the version she has?
She's got the Kickstarter version, so she does have all the item meeples. She's got the extra bonus thing with the mushrooms. I think it's like an expansion part. We did not do the mushrooms thing though. I'd like to play it again because I don't remember Carlos having the mushroom part. Maybe he just didn't break it out.
Did you see the pegboard?
Say that again, Dave.
Did you see the pegboard? I was asking Dustin if you saw the pegboard where you put the little weapons at item shop.
I didn't see that.
If you've ever played Diablo or any one of those exploring games, you inevitably come into the weapons room and they've got a rack like this, and they got all the hatchets and everything. Well, they give you a little cardboard one, and the one Carlos had wasn't working, but the one that Rosemary had works really well. It stands up perfect, and Kyle had every single weapon on both sides there, so it looked like we had a little armory in the middle of our table. I mean, I got to admit, I really liked it. I'd play it again.
Well, I'm a big fan of Tiny Epic Galaxies, so if it's anywhere near as good as that one, I'm down.
Well, I've heard that you can play Tiny Epic Galaxies in about half the time we played.
Yeah. Apparently, your version was like the Tiny Epic game, because that was like a 2-hour game.
Let's put it this way. We got our money's worth out of that game. I mean, why play a game for an hour and a half when you can play it for almost 3 hours? Obviously, You're enjoying it more, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
We got
it was really epic. It lived up to its name, Barry.
It was
Right?
tiny and it was epic. Yeah, and it was long.
Yep.
But no, I didn't mind because as I know Dustin thought it was funny on our group meet chat. I said today that I could have it could have been longer for me, another turn. I didn't mean in terms of time. I didn't want to go 4 hours.
Yeah, I was like, really? You needed it longer?
No, I didn't mean it like that. I meant that I could have used another turn or two because you're just as your engine is getting going, your little characters are starting to get developed. Then the game ends, and that's probably a good thing because most of us got 2, 3, or 4 quests out. Most of us got at least 2 of our legendary weapons out. So at some point, your little item meeples can only carry 2 things, and we only have 3 of them. So
Yeah.
if you got more than that stuff, then you'd be like, okay, what do I do with these items? So I'm actually, the more I think about it, Scott knows what he's doing. It's the right length. But hey, back to the Godfather. I got a question for you. Pull it up. So now, Dave, I know you only played it once, so you won't be able to. This is not really a review rating, okay? This is just an early impression. But just based on what you guys have played it, the Dukes of Dice use this cool 6-point scale, and a lot of other podcasts are doing it, where 1 is just a poorly designed game. It's barely playable and it's not really fun. 6 is an all-time favorite, and it's a contender for your all-time top 10 of the year. I mean, like, this is going to be
year?
one of your, I mean, if you're going to do at the end of the year, if you're going to do your top 10 games of all time, this would be one that would go there. Where does it fit? For me, Tiny Epic Quest would fit around a 4, a good game, worth playing, not all the time. But if I owned it, I would keep it. I wouldn't trade it away. It's a game that I would keep. I don't say number 5 because a 5 is a great game. We'll rarely turn down a play of it. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it sits somewhere between a 4 and 5. I only had 2 plays, so I need a couple more plays. It's not a 3. A game is okay, not exciting. We'll play in the right situation. It's higher than that for me. Tiny Epic Quest, I put somewhere around a 4 or 5. It'll settle in there somewhere. Where would you guys put The Godfather? An all-time favorite at 6?
All-time as in all-time favorite games, like, or just for the year? Because you said 2 different things, and there's a big difference between the 2.
An all-time favorite that is a contender for your top 10. Look, we've all played hundreds of games. So, and luckily for us, most of those games, the 120 or 150 games I've played in the last 2 years, they're all top games because we're buying all these great games and we're playing them, right? We're skipping a lot of the riffraff. So an all-time favorite that could actually move into your top 10 games of all time. Not that it is going to be, but it's at a contender for the top 10.
I got you.
Or is it just a great game, we'll rarely turn down to play of it, or a good game worth playing? A number 4 is a really good score. That's a good game worth playing, just not all the time, belongs in your collection. In other words, you're not moving it out of your collection.
Well, to be a 6 for me, I'd have to have a lot more plays because to me, an all-time favorite, you got to be able to, have played 20 times and still be good.
Yeah.
It's definitely a 5 for me, though. Like an example on Board Game Geek, I gave it a 9. I don't know if it'll stay at a 9. It might go down maybe 8.5, or it won't go any lower than an 8. So I definitely think it's a great game. I mean, 5 plays in, and I haven't, wanted to not play it. Like, it's one of those games when I was done, I was immediately thinking about playing it again. I don't know.
Dave, what about you? Yeah, this is not a lockdown number. This is just early impression.
Can I go like 4.5, right? Would that be good? 4.5?
You could say it's a strong 4. How's that? A strong 4.
I'm like leaning towards 5. Strong 4, leaning towards 5, right?
Yeah.
The thing I like most about The Godfather, the area control is fine. That's okay. The thing that I really enjoyed about the game was the hand management and the set collection. That to me is the best part of the game, hands down. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, why'd you like the set collection so much?
I don't know. It's interesting that you have to find ways to collect the resources and find a way to deny your opponents the resources at the same time. And it just feels good once you have like a car bomb in your hand, which requires 3 guns, and you finally get 3 guns, and you're like, okay, you set off all your pieces, you save 2 of them, so you're able to do your jobs. That part feels really good to me. Like, I really enjoyed that part of finally having like jobs or actions you can do, like 2 or 3 of them in a row, and just that part feels really, I don't know, it feels satisfying. I really enjoyed that part.
Dustin, what about you, man? What's the best thing?
Uh, I really like the suitcase mechanic I explained. I love the way you have to turn the money into the points. I like the hand management part because I find, it helps kind of keep the leader behind too. Because if you can have a handful of 40 resources and that doesn't mean anything because you got to discard down to 5 cards at the end of the round. So I like that as well. I mean, I really like all the mechanics. I guess my favorite's probably the suitcasing just because it's different. I love the way you have two different kind of workers for your worker placement. You have your thug and your more powerful family member. Uh, that's
I'd say
what's that?
the least part about that game that I liked is the area control. I don't know. It felt like it was a little. It's really hard to get control in that game.
At
But,
least
I mean, if you plan
five-player
it out
game
right,
it is.
I guess in a 5-player game because I haven't played with less than 5 people.
Because
But
when I played with 3, we had a lot more tokens everywhere. I found in our game, once people got a spot, like no one could get them out. There was like
Oh my
1 or
God.
2 tokens.
You didn't have tokens stacked like I thought they were going to be stacked. I thought it was
Yeah.
going to be a constant battle over territory, but it was just more of I want this action, I want these 4 actions. I don't care about the territory, not right
I
now,
do.
but I'll get
I,
it.
I do like the bonus action for controlling territory though, because that adds another mechanic that's different. Is you really want a resource, but if you get it, they get it too. Or you can even game it and when I finally got area control from Bradley, there were no resources left, so it mattered for scoring. But I was getting no bonuses because when people would go there, it's like all of a sudden everybody wanted to come to town when I was owning it. When Bradley was there, nobody wanted to go because there were no resources left. So I was just sitting there like,
And
oh, that's about right. No guns for me.
Right.
Well, I think
You're probably right. It has a lot to do with the 5-player. Not a lot of area to control. That may be the reason, but I don't know. To me, the area control was kind of secondary to the resource management, the hand management, and adding points or scoring money into your bin
Mhm.
or taking. That was kind of like the in order of importance to me was area control was kind of last.
Well, man, that is the Crew to Gumbo deep dive look. First impressions for Dave and me, although I didn't get to try it. And, of course, Dustin's 5th play. That's at 3, 4, and 5. You played it all, the player counts?
Yes, I play. No, actually,
Yeah.
I played it 3 times and 5 twice.
So we've
Never
got some
4
good
yet.
plays in it. That's everything that we have on it. Again, you can always hit us at facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, on Twitter at BoardGameGumbo. Dustin, what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter, actually, I said it wrong earlier. I gave my old Twitter. My Twitter, actually, for Board Game Gumbo is Dustin_Boatman.
Oh, okay. Dave?
Boatman.
Boatman. Dave?
DVD TV, DAVEY DTV.
Yeah,
Next
so thanks
week
a lot.
we're going to do odds Wednesday, Cthulhu Mancala.
Oh, yeah. Are we going to do it? Fate of the Elder Gods?
I'm down for it if Dustin is and you are.
Man.
I might be back in Texas gaming over there. We'll see.
Yeah, let's get Fate of the Elder Gods played next week, and then we can talk about it next Thursday night. That sounds good. All right, guys, we're going to sign off here at Board Game Gumbo Live, another episode. We're still doing our beta test, but we're getting closer and closer to putting this package together. I had a great time with you guys tonight. Let's do it again next week. Until next time, c'est le bon temps roulé. Sign off, guys.
Later, y'all.
Later, man.
Later. See ya.